So the mindfulness bell invites us to be still. The stillness is always waiting for our attention, but so often we get caught up in the mind and the narrative within the mind. And the whole practice of meditation is basically a stopping and going within and discovering a silence that's always there waiting for our attention. In the Bible, they call it the peace that passeth all understanding. And so by simply ringing a bell, the invitation is to let our attention, almost like a pebble that you would drop into a pond, let your attention fall into that peace, into that silence, into that awake awareness. There are many beautiful things we can call it, but the point is to go there and stay there. And then look around. In that awake awareness, which is the Buddha consciousness, there's no real narrative. There's no issue that's annoying. There's no opinion or judgment. That comes from our egoic self, our ego, if you will, or the culture that we live in, societal beliefs, opinions, judgments. You could go on ad nauseum, just turn on the television and it's one after another. But that simple act of ringing a bell and going into the silence, into that awake awareness, sets us free from that. And that's a huge practice that we can use throughout our day when we're driving in the car and see things seem to be kind of crazy on the outside. We can just take a deep breath and find that still point within. And then the chaos will still go on the outside, but we're driving from a place of peace, hopefully, and not taking the storm on the outside and putting it on the inside. And then we realize that life is a practice. Every moment we are practicing, asking that question, who am I being in this moment? We can be doing water aerobics in the pond or the pool, and all of a sudden the thunder is going on around us, and we can freak out. Or we can just fall into that place of peace within ourselves and do our little stretches from side to side. It's a lifelong practice, this being still. I was listening to Thich Nhat Hanh this morning. Mark Accomando, my student, sent me a video of him, and he was one of my very first teachers. And he talked about the necessity of bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is the awake awareness that abides within our heart. We'll give it that location, where love, acceptance, compassion flourish. And so he says, when you ring the bell and you go into that quiet place, let it take you into the bodhicitta that's waiting for you. It's the compassionate heart. It's the love that is always there. And he said it becomes a way of life. You hang out in the bodhicitta. Come on in, my friend. What a beautiful smile on your face. We're taking us into the bodhicitta, into that awake awareness that is always there. The theme for this Sunday's talk is the work of being. work of being love, being peace, being awake awareness, being the bodhicitta moving through the moments. It becomes a beautiful dance that has no beginning and has no end, but is always flowing with every breath we take. And we get to do this journey together, walking each other home to that place where we belong. And we see the calligraphy over my head. I have arrived. I am home. It's a way of life to go home to this awake, aware love that is within us and all around us. When you look out at nature, you see that awake, aware love everywhere. I was sharing in the revealing service, the Carolina wrens have made a big nest on the front porch and all the babies are chirping. And it's one chaotic field of love out there. Love from the mother flying in and out, feeding the little hungry babies. And it's chaos shimmering on the front porch. And we're all in this together. And so let's take a deep integrating breath. Let's give a sigh for the divine. And I'm going to invite my beloved Bob Dees up here, because I came into the center early this morning and I was listening to this classical music and I was waiting for him to come because we always have our morning chat.
Oh, you said Dees.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeoman, Bob. See, I'm a senior citizen now. And all of a sudden I heard from the sanctuary this music that just opened my soul. And I thought, I kept waiting for you all to hear that this man uses his body to let the music flow through him and expresses the soul. And I know Judy loves to play the piano, so this is for you, Miss Judy Graff. You're gonna love this. What's the name of it?
Claire.
Oh, Claire de Lune. Yes. Oh. It's beautiful. Doesn't it kind of exalt your soul? Mm. I'm talking about living in the flow this month, and one of my favorite teachers was a man named Mark Nepo, and he lives in the flow. He's an artist, and he said it's an endless practice putting on the music. I mean, I've been listening to this music all morning now, and then you continued it, and it's like there's this something within and all around us that's inviting our attention, and so let me just give you a taste of that endless flow. He said, eventually you come to the last quarter and the final stage of your life. Not to say that I'm in that last stage, but I am 77 plus. And he says, it seems there is a preciousness in all that now is before us and all that we have ever had. I've known for a long time that we slowly become what we seek. My beloved Adam was saying he's seeking more and seeking more. And the soul is always seeking more sense of itself. So he says, after a lifetime, Mark Nepo, a lifetime of seeking, we become a beautiful part of the path by which others seek. We lean into the unknown long enough and we become a small part of the great mystery of belonging to the universe. I go into the men's room every single Sunday and I go to that photograph of Albert Einstein, and he looks right into my eyes, and I say, okay, transmit. And he says, we are the universe. And the only obstacle is that I think I'm a separate self with my own preferences. And he says, could I let that separate self fall away and know that I am one with everything, and the compassion in my heart will let me. And so the birds outside, the hummingbirds, Bob was talking about, Bob Dees, the other Bob was talking about all the critters that he sees, and I never get to see all these critters. And Gigi, there's a million birds over at Jody's house. Go and sit down, and she says they're all around. So they're out there. And he says, the gift of this great journey, which each soul must take, our job is not to expose the mystery, but rather to participate within the mystery. Oh, don't you love that, Michael? We get to participate in this mystery of belonging to the universe, Miss Paula. And you know what's so beautiful? Pay attention, because she can work with old people, and there's a young kid in that old person. And then maybe we've had lifetime after lifetime, Mr. Well, I'm not going to say your name because we don't want to believe in reincarnation. Oops, did I say that? At first, this was troubling to me, says Mark Nepo, but now it has settled into my soul as a humble blessing. We are here to evolve and to grow and to watch the patterns on the energy. And the one thing I'm so clear about at my age, 77 plus, is that we don't die. We're spiritual beings. We're having a human experience. And this soul is deathless and eternal. That little pug is haunting me. And I need either going crazy or I'm just going to have to open it. He's going to hang out with me for a long time. And this too is good. This too is God. So skipping over to further on in the book, Mark Nepo calls it Aladdin's lamp. There's a light within us. The unconscious lesson is that we are the lamp, and the powerful genie lives within inside each one of us. Ooh, he's using a metaphor. Despite all the travails and the misbegotten adventures, no one could possess this lamp or this trick or trick the genie. Only the authentic care of our deepest beingness can bring forth the abiding spirit that lives within us. There is this something, this luminous something that abides within all of us, and he's inviting to use our imagination. Jesus says the kingdom of heaven lies within us. And he said it's a light. And so Mark is doing the same thing, a nice Jewish boy. He's saying that there's this light within us. And he calls it Aladdin's lamp. So holding the lamp of life, of my life, the lamp of my soul, close to my chest, I've forgotten how to make the genie appear. He's using a metaphor here. And he says the word genie, maybe it comes from the word genius. Ooh, he's getting creative. And in its original form, the genius was not reserved for the brilliance of a few, but no, it meant it was the attendant spirit within us all. There is this genius within you, Paula, that's letting you teach this in a very mystical way. And to open to that. Hey, beautiful, come on in. So he says, this is our attendant spirit. Now, I'm talking about the joy of being. we're starting off by saying that there is this attendant spirit within all of us that we get to start paying attention. It plays the piano through some. This attendant spirit, everyone has this genie within, this attendant spirit. We could call the spirit that attends us a guide or a soul or the Atman. We could call it the Buddha nature or the Christ light. We could call it the center point of beingness, the swirl of the living universe that enlives all of us, or the current of the Tao that's moving us along. Whatever name you give it, we all have this genie, this attendant spirit that we hold close to our chest, especially when we're stuck in a dark cave of our journey and we're surrounded by the pain of our fears or our grief. So when we go through those dark moments, there is that light within us which we can turn to. Michael, smile. I want to see that smile. Sometimes if you have a dog like Herman around, it helps because we're all in this together. He goes on to say, so what is in me that reaches for something new when questioning a life and whether it's worth living? What is it in me that when stuck in the dark lifts my sorry head to search for a way out of the dark? What authority of being, what lamp within my soul says, take this old story and see where it comes from? Time and again, I learned that it's only the mark of our hands, the tending and the caring of what's before us that lets the lamp of our soul guide us out of the dark. So whatever age we're in, we're going to have those moments of darkness, of confusion, and we need to find that lamp. And it's an ongoing, lifelong, maybe lives-long journey. He goes on to conclude. He says, and in an authentic, we contend and care for that small light that we carry. In an authentic way, our inborn gifts will show us our genius, our attendant spirit, and working our gifts in the presence of this attendant spirit will guide us then to become who we were born to be. Often this journey begins in the dark cave of our troubles, when we finally trust that there is this small lamp that we carry, and it will transform us and show us the way out. What more could we ask for? So there is this light within us that's guiding. It brought me to Huntsville, Alabama, 1989. And then here's his little affirmation for this light. We are already what we seek. It waits like a seed to be loved into blossom. We are already what we seek, and it waits like a seed to be brought into blossom. So could we water that seed of our potential, of our curiosity? When little Maddie would run up and down the aisles and throw herself in my arm, she was watering that seed of David Leonard. And to this day, maybe that's what we're here to do, is to nurture that light within us. Skipping to the very end of the book, he says this: each trial we experience becomes a blessing. As I grow older, my wonder widens and it also softens. He says, we're all of the same awakening tribe. I hear the door. So I keep discovering how to let my heart do its job. There's Babette. Babette and I have the same love affair with the same pug. I keep discovering how to let my heart do its job and to let it protect us, not the other way around. So could we put our head into our hearts and let love lead the way? And now, if pressed to speak about God from this place of wonder, I'd have to say that God is the one true world, the all-embracing ocean that is home to every fish and every critter. So God is this space which we all share, and it doesn't have a religion. He goes on to say the soul is the common center of our universal spirit. It seeds each human being, which is why when in the depths of the soul, we feel a kinship with all living things. I love when Bob Dees talks about his journeys with all the wild critters, because truly, I think that's his family. I know he's got his two brothers, but no, I could see the snapping turtle in there and all the birds. What if we knew that we're part of all of this? If that's the kinship with all life. So Mark Nepo does this at the end. He says, no matter how we want to square ourselves up with the roughness of the ride, we cannot bypass our human journey. It is the cocoon that releases our spirit. Now, there's a lovely metaphor. We're trying to get out of the cocoon of the me person. And then once we step out of that, Michael, we're free to fly from flower to flower. So when we can accept the escapable gift of being here, it becomes clearer that the real value of listening is that it leads us outside of ourselves and eventually back into who we all are, only more enlivened, complete, and awake. We're all the one life experiencing itself in the diversity. And then we sing that lovely little song, I am you, you are me, we are one. And in this unity, we will live in harmony, and peace has come because there's only one here. That's what Einstein's saying on that poster. We're the universe. So at the very end of the book, he says, so I wish for you and me a continued chance to learn from our hearts so that we can be awake enough to do small things with great love and the strength of heart to turn the sorrow that endures forever into a peace that abides in every moment. So yes, I'm sad that Humphrey left, but I feel the peace of his love that didn't die. And I'm so clear that we don't die. My vow remains the same as those that come before me, to stay a committed, animated, obedient learner, always asking one question: of what use and bridge can I be? Of what use and bridge can I be? Could we walk each other home? And so that's his little endless practice, to be a bridge of love, the way of being, to be open, to be the bodhicitta. So I'd love to go to some of my inspirations. I have a huge library at home. And I went to a lady named Ellen Grace O'Brien. She came out of the Yogananda tradition, and she and I are the same age. And she has a huge center in California. And she did one of our Circle of Loves. She says, finding the sacred in everyday life. I wanted to give you a little taste of Ellen. She has a different way of approaching it, and it's very sweet. Remember, she comes from Yogananda. Satchitananda is the awakened energy coming through love. And she said, God's omnipresence, omnipotence, and omniscience are reflected in each one of us. And Satchitananda means existence, bliss, and awareness. So we are the existence, we are the bliss, and we are the attendance, the awareness. These are the precious gems that are the unlimited potential within everyone's consciousness. So she's taking us to another way of looking at the being, Michael. She says, we are free to enjoy what life brings without attachment and aversion. So we don't grasp, nor do we push away. It is what it is. How sweet is that? The doorway to the divine heart opens from within, and whatever is needed for this God realization flows into our lives unheeded. Just open your heart. That's why it's so important to have a four-legged if you can, because they do open our hearts. Barbara was telling me that this lady that she knows, a friend of hers, was very old and couldn't take care of the dog, and her neighbor opened her heart to it, and it's one big open-hearted love affair just by saying yes. So she's taking us to that place. Grace is the conscious intention of our spirit to support the flourishing and the prospering of its expression in our individual soul. So we're opening our individual soul to this divine love. Divine love, this life belongs to you. Do with it as you will. And then be surprised at who shows up smiling at you. And it's all in divine order. Ellen Grace O'Brien. In the one life that is God's life, nothing stands between the soul and its own good. And as we cooperate with this simple truth, we find that life conspires to aid and to guide us everywhere. New urges will well up within us. And what is God's will? That's what we ask. And how can I serve? God's will was using you, Paula, to do this way of helping people who have a fear around water. And I wish my mother were alive so you could have helped her. With the opening of the heart also comes the spiritual teacher. The teacher is the archetype of the soul's light of truth dwelling within our heart. You know, we all need a spiritual teacher, and I've had so many wonderful ones along the way. And when I studied with Thich Nhat Hanh, he said, all of life is a transmission. He said, there is the transmitter, there is the receiver, and there is that which is transmitted. He said, your teachers transmit themselves to you. They live in you. He says, your parents transmit themselves. They live in you. So could we open to the transmission from the various teachers? And so she's saying the same thing. God within us is the teacher. It is the true guru. It is the dispeller of the darkness and our ignorance. So we come here to have a direct experience with that mystery of belonging to the universe, Miss Barbara. It's always been there just waiting for us. Without opening the heart, no amount of outer search or entreaty will bring the teacher forth. No, you're not going to beg for God to do something to you. You just need to open yourself up and say, okay, use me, oh God. I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me. Command my hands, command my heart. Yeah, open. The outer teacher is the mirror by which we see our inner teacher, our own divinity. Yeah, so seek out those teachers that really open your heart wide, Miss Barbara. The love that we long for is then ours to give away, as the flower girl in the wedding tosses the rose petals before the bride. Wasn't that a lovely little metaphor? The bride and the thing. And so I'll just end Ellen with that. That was a sweet little thing. A single blade of grass. Then I went to Pema Chodron. She's also one of my teachers. And she wrote Welcoming the Unwelcome. There was a time in my life when I was really struggling with the world. And so every January, I would teach this book, Welcoming the Unwelcome, because if I resist it, I'm going to suffer. And so Pema, she's a Buddhist, and she has a way of, the work of being, how we can be with the stuff that is challenging to us. And she asked the question, how can we intentionally turn our mind around when it is feeling small? Oh, how do you turn your mind when it's feeling small? She asked the question. And her teacher was Rinpoche. Rinpoche said that the way to arouse bodhicitta, that's that awake awareness that comes from the heart, Buddhist, he said the way to arouse this bodhicitta was to begin with your own broken heart. Now, doesn't that sound counterintuitive? Begin with your own broken heart. Protecting ourselves from pain, our own and that of others, has never worked. Everybody wants to be free from their suffering, but the majority of us go about it in the ways that only make things worse. This is perfect for you. Shielding ourselves from the vulnerability of all living things, which includes our own vulnerability, will cut us off from the full experience of life. So when I put Thich Nhat Hanh this morning on my little phone, he popped up. He was talking about the bodhicitta, and he says, when someone is suffering, he says, don't tell them what the problem is. He says, open to the suffering and meet the suffering with the compassion. So in a way, the suffering is the gift. It's the doorway for compassion to open. She's saying the same thing. So when we generate this bodhicitta, we go against the grain of the tendency to try to fix people from the outside. Instead of shying away, rather we arouse a bravery to take a direct look at ourselves and the world. And instead of being intimidated by the phenomena that we meet, we come to embrace all aspects of the inexhaustibly rich lives. So the crazier it gets, the more we open our heart to it. And then she says, we can touch in with our bodhicitta by simply allowing ourselves to experience our own raw feelings without getting sucked into thoughts about them or a story to define them. Yes, the things are kind of crazy on the planet, and we acknowledge that. Just turn on the news. And he says, I'm feeling lonely. I can blame myself, or I can fantasize about how nice it would be to have someone to spend some time with. But I also have the opportunity to simply touch into that lonely feeling and discover that the bodhicitta is right there in the midst of the loneliness. I miss Humphrey so much because he would sleep on the side of the bed. So I put the teddy bear on the side of the bed and I put my arms over the teddy bear. It wasn't Humphrey, but I was still holding on to something that I loved. I know. A different kind of loneliness, and everyone else on this planet experiences it. So at the end of the book, she says this. Is it this end or this end? Oh, it's this. Place your fearful mind in the cradle of a loving kindness. In other words, be loving and friendly to yourself. Put your fearful mind in the cradle of loving kindness. Oh, that's so sweet. Then she goes on to say, and accepting something, by the way, isn't the same as liking it. It means being okay with it as part of the texture of your own human life. Yes, it's a challenge right now to go through the grief with the pug, but he's showing me that the love never dies. And she says, it means being okay with whatever part of the texture of your human life. It's like accepting the weather. We may prefer sunny to rainy or spring to winter, but fundamentally we accept the way the weather is and the seasons are. And so she said, I have learned how I can just let things be. And if each of us can change how we look at ourselves, that becomes the basis for a whole culture of people who don't give up on themselves or on each other. And this is something that we certainly need now more than ever. I'm accepting the things I cannot change, having the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I think it's even fair to say how we feel about ourselves will determine how we feel about the future of the world. Ooh, we're not separate anymore. Rinpoche emphasized that we are always at a crossroads, always. And things seem like they're spinning out of control. And we can respond to the state of affairs with fear, aggression, selfishness, or we can respond out of a trust in our own vast, open, basically good soul. We can meet it for what it is. This too is good, this too is for God, and I demand to see the blessing. Raul has been 8 months free of cancer. Amen to that. How we respond will determine the way the world will go. And as citizens of the universe, we can help things go in the direction of wisdom, caring, and compassion. So she's inviting us to not see the problem on the outside and put it on the inside, but to see yourself as a shape shifter and the way of being in the bodhicitta. So, and I went to the very last person as my hero is John O'Donohue. He's now no longer on the planet, but he's with me. This was his book, Walking in Wonder. And he talks about seeing God everywhere. The Anamkara is everywhere. And that has helped me more than anything. Go for a walk in the garden, sit under the trees. I was reading Mark Niebuhr this morning, and he said, when my father died, I felt that his light was still with me, and I looked out the window, and the light of the sun was shining down, and I felt my father in the light. And he said, and then I looked at the foot of the trees, and I saw them smiling, and I saw my father smiling through the flowers. And he's walking in wonder. He's walking in the mystery. Our spirit never dies, and we're part of this bigger something. But you have to be willing to be used. There's that song, use me, O God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. So John is doing that. He's always throwing us right into the love. And here's my beloved John. He said, I think the trees are filled with an incredible presence, the trees. So I think that the landscape is an incredible mystical teacher. And when you begin to tune into the sacred presence, well, then something shifts within inside you. When Bob Dees goes on all the trips, I kind of vicariously take a mystical journey with him because I don't get to see all these critters, but I do see through his storytelling, there's something that happens to him because he's not separate from all of that. I mean, that truly is his spiritual practice. Jody goes right along with him. We are guests of the universe, he says, guests of the universe. And the landscape is the firstborn of creation. And it was here hundreds of millions of years before us. Well, boy, that's a pretty nice church to go to, isn't it? Go into the church of nature. Hundreds of million years before us. It knows what is actually going on. So to put it in a theological way, and he was a Catholic priest who left the Catholic Church, he said there was too much sin there and he couldn't handle it. He wanted the mysticism. To put it in theological ways, I feel that the landscape is always a prayer, and its prayer is seamless. It is always enfolded in presence. It is a high work of our imagination because there is no repetition in a landscape. Every stone, every tree, every field is a different place. And when our eyes begin to become attentive to this panorama of differentiation, then you realize what a privilege it is actually to be here, to sit in the garden and all the birds are singing around you. And I walked into the center and I found some big bugs that had died and they were lying on their backs. And I felt sorry for them, but then I picked each one up and I put a few in the pots. They can maybe make things. So here's his little prayer for a new beginning. He says, in the out-of-the-way places of my heart, where thoughts never think to wander, this beginning has been quietly forming and waiting until you were ready to emerge. He's inviting us to go into this place in our heart where this something was waiting to emerge. This is for a new beginning. For a long time, it has watched your desires. It has felt the emptiness growing inside you, noticing how you willed yourself on, still unable to leave what you had outgrown. Sometimes we have to let go of the stuff that no longer serves us and step into that unknown place where we can discover the mystery of belonging. It watched you play with the seduction of safety. Not anybody here would play with the seduction of safety. And the gray promises that sameness whispered. It heard the waves of turmoil rise and relent and wondered, would you always live like this? Then the delight when your courage was kindled, and out you stepped onto new ground. Your eyes were young again with energy and dreams, and a path of plenitude was opening before you from within you. And though your destination is not clear yet, you can trust the promise of this opening. You can unfurl yourself into the grace of a new beginning that is at one with your life's desire. So awaken now your spirit of adventure. Hold nothing back. Learn to find ease in risk, and soon you will be home with this new rhythm, for your soul senses the world that awaits you. Your soul senses the world that awaits you. And with gateways of wonder and doorways of presence, we witness you, we honor you, we trust you. We are you. All there is you. Wonderful you, full of Der One. Wonderful you, full of Der One, and that is who we are. So, shall we do another little ringing of the bell, Miss Jody? Oh yeah, we'll do a little collection. So it's with gratitude that we open our hearts to serve our community, and thank you for reminding me, what we sow is what we reap. And this will help us do the little chores we have around the center. Every Sunday, my first thing is to write my little tithe check to the center, and it feels good to, then I come in here and I water all the plants, and then I set up the place. Thank you. Now Jody's going to ring the little bell. We're going home again. The way of being. We found the bodhicitta waiting like a little light within our hearts. It's always waiting for us. Be still and know the I am is right there. And just by touching it with awareness, we are established in that awake awareness that comes from the love that is deathless and eternal. And so we begin to experience the continuity of our jubilant and beholden soul that was with us when we were a little kid and is now still with us, waiting for our attention. Jesus said to be like a child if you would enter this kingdom of heaven. So he was speaking metaphorically of that innocent one that's filled with wonder, full of Der One. And so when we move into that wonder child, we begin to experience God in the smallest of places, in the garden, in the flowers that bloom, in the birds that fly. As a little boy, I was blown away with butterflies, how they would come out of a cocoon and all of a sudden they had these wings, and with just a few little flaps, they took off and were in the air, flying and landing on flowers and drinking the nectar and then lifting up. I haven't seen butterflies that much now, but I still remember how magical they were when I was little. And so we open to that wonder child that lives within us, knowing that today we're going to go for a walk, perhaps in nature, and observe the flowers that are blooming. I did an acronym for flower when I took a spiritual class. They said, find a word that means something to you and then write an acronym. And so I put FLOWER on a canvas, and I thought of the flower, and I said, fragrance is the F. Laughing is the L. Opens is the O. Wildly is the W. Effortless is the E. And revealing is the R. And so now this painting sits in my dining room, looking up at me every Saturday or Sunday morning when I get ready to come to church. It says, fragrance laughing opens wildly, effortless, revealing. And so I invite you to be a flower today, to let the fragrance of your soul laugh, opening wildly, just opening your heart to the moment in an effortless revealing of your soul. He who can see God in the smallest of things is better than seeing an angel. And so we're moving into that magical place within us where we see the oneness. We see the oneness in nature. We see the oneness in each other. We are not separate. We are all flowers of many colors because human truth is one. And so we smile to that sense of oneness. Take a deep inhalation. Give a sigh for the divine. And let's make a circle and sing about the oneness.